What's up, YouTube? It is your boy JB, and we are here today with review for Love and Marriage Huntsville Season 3, The Reunion Part 1, you guys. Now, before we get into this reunion, if you guys are watching this video or any other on the channel and you guys are not yet subscribed to the channel, I'm gonna need you guys to do me a big, huge favor and stop taking me out on this date and hit that subscribe button, turn your notifications on, share the video, you guys, and with that out the way, you guys, without further ado, let us go ahead and discuss the Season 3 reunion of Love and Marriage Huntsville. Shall we? Sorry, I ain't trying to make that much noise, but let's get into it. All right, you guys, so the reunion, it opens up like most of the reunion shows open up. We see the cast, they're out there in LA filming the reunion, right? We see everybody as they're getting there, getting into their dressing rooms. We see hair and makeup getting done. We see Carlos, he twisting down the hallway. And then we see him going to each cast member's room, dressing rooms. He went to the dressing room of Maurice and Kimmy, Letitia and Marceau, Melody and Martel's separate, dressing rooms, right? So they're like, who is the host gonna be at this reunion? And he says, it's me. So he's doing his Andy Cohen at this point, and I'm not mad at it, right? Tisha, Marceau, and Martel, they were like, oh no. Because they were like, us, so it's not like someone asking these questions to really just get a reaction, get a response not knowing, because us. Now, as far as Maurice, Kimmy, and Melody, they're happy with it, right? So we get to the reunion stage. Carlos introduces everyone to us. Martel still has on a tight ass suit. Kimmy, I liked her hair. The dress wasn't for me. Tisha, I mean, she got on that loud ass orange dream girls looking dress with that plopped on wig, and it's plopped on and it's humped up in the back. You know what? Giselle's wig from the Real Housewives of Potomac reunion looks so much better than this wig that Tisha has on. Now, mind you, they both have the same no scalp, right? But at least Tisha, God, and then her makeup, it was gold up under here. I was looking at it, I'm like, it's gold all up under here, and it just looks really bad. I don't know if the gold was supposed to make the orange pop. It didn't. So, we start the reunion up, right? So Carlos is talking to the cast. It's been 2 years since they've had a reunion, right? Because you guys remember season 2, they actually split the season in half, right? Because the first half of season 2 ended with the other side of the corner, the other side of the tracks comment from Marceau. Then we came back last season and we didn't have a reunion, which I thought was really interesting, because if you guys watched Bell Collective had a reunion for their first season, but Love and Marriage Huntsville did not have a reunion at all. So after 2 years, we're having our reunion, right? It's like I said, Carlos is, just talking to the cast. I know at one point, they were talking about, how things have changed for them, right? Not Kimmy, but Tisha was talking about how she's proud of she and Marceau. She has her master's. He's like, I'm proud of you, babe. She's like, I'm proud of us. So then, they talked about, when the show first aired, right? And we find out that Tisha is not on Twitter, which I actually don't blame Tisha, because I wonder how many times at one point before she got off of Twitter, how many times did she see us on Twitter bagging her about saying we're event, right? So I don't blame Tisha one bit. Do what you got to do, right? So then Carlos is talking to Melody and to Martel, right? So he's asking Mel and Martel, when you guys signed up for this show. And like I've been saying, I know when Mel and Martel signed up for Love and Marriage Huntsville, I know that they didn't expect for everything to happen the way that they did, specifically with the cheating. I know that they didn't expect for the things to happen that way, but it's just how the cookie crumbles, right? So Carlos asked, both Mel and Martel, do they have any regrets with joining the show? Mel says she has no regrets, right? Because she says, things happen, doors open for her that ultimately, if it weren't for the show, they probably would have opened a little bit slower, and that's for her and the rest of the cast, right? Now, Martel does have some regrets, right? He said he did the show for Melody, because he asked Mel a few years prior, what does she want to do? And she said she wanted to be on TV. So he was being the supportive husband, supporting his wife by joining this show. But Martell feels that, had they not done the show, that he feels that the things that has happened with him and Mel probably could have been handled differently and not to the magnitude of where they were. And he probably would still have his wife and his kids, right? Mel, however, disagrees with that. And I actually believe Mel. I believe that Mel would have got fed up at one point, which we are going to talk a little bit later about that situation because it was really disrespectful. But we'll talk about it, right? So then Marcel also says, when it comes to the show, right, especially because he kind of piggybacked off of what Tisha said about staying off of social media, right? Because he said, reading they talk about reading the comments. And I'm gonna give it to him, right? It is kind of hard not to read negative comments because because being on YouTube, you can definitely get some negative comments. So I think what works is being able to read the comments and not internalize that comment. I think that's because I don't internalize. Like I get some now, I don't even internalize them. I respond to them in a positive way and I keep it moving, right? So he says he's the the most disliked person on the show, and Tisha's like second to most, right? Because she's talking about she and Marceau, right? I will say yes, you guys. I will say that Tisha and Marceau are disliked, right? But over the last few seasons, Martell is number one, and then you follow that. It's like Martell. This is me thinking. This is just me, right? It's Martell, then it's Marceau, and then it's Tisha at the bottom, right? Yeah, you guys might have a different number scale, but hey, let me know. So we are going to move on, you guys. All right, you guys. So we find out that, and this is pretty much how most reality shows are, right? When they pitch it to the network, they have one show in mind, right? And then by the time it comes to inception, once it comes to inception and they get ready to announce the show, they can change the name. I mean, we see that a lot of times. We specifically see that with Real Housewives, right? Like I know there are a lot of Real Housewives that were not housewives initially, right? I know Atlanta wasn't initially a housewives show. I know that New York wasn't initially a housewives show. Potomac wasn't either. Potomac was supposed to be. And if you go back and look at certain shows' first seasons, right? You look at what they're talking about, right? Especially in the reality world. The Real Housewives of Potomac was supposed to be about class and etiquette, right? That's why they kept saying etiquette almost every episode, because that's what that show was about. The Real Housewives of Dallas, that show was supposed to be about charity. That's why they kept saying charity in every episode. And kind of the same with Real Housewives of Atlanta. That that's why you kept seeing them talk about being the Black Hollywood and all that stuff, because the shows weren't initially supposed to be Real Housewives. I think the only shows, like in the Housewives franchise, the only ones that I know for sure was supposed to be a Housewives is Salt Lake City. That was always supposed to be a Housewives. When they started filming that was Housewives. But yeah. So initially the show was supposed to be about construction, right? Marceau, he had a disdain for that. So he sent a scathing email to the show's producers telling them about it. And so, Carlos was like, why? He said, like I thought this show was about, construction. And then to see that the title was Love and Marriage, Huntsville. I know about construction. And I'm like, so you don't know about love? And well, you know what? He doesn't. But hey, it is what it is, right? So then Carlos talks to the cast. And he says, that some of the viewers say that the show went from being very positive to being all about arguments, right? And I guess I can see that standpoint, right? Where people feel that the show has taken a nosedive, right? Where we started out talking about the 47 acres, creating homes for, our people, right? But I still think that the show still has some of those qualities, right? Because we still do see them in their normal day-to-day lives, trying to help the community, but we also get a sprinkle in of the drama. And let's be real, you guys. Y'all would complain if this show was just about these people building wealth and all that. So you guys would complain about it. Like, I'm gonna give you guys a prime example of a TV show that didn't have a whole lot of drama in it. It actually focused on the women's day-to-day lives. Marriage Medicine Los Angeles. That was actually a really good show, but it got canceled because of the viewership, number one, and the fact that, people didn't like it because it didn't have a lot of drama. And the thing with that show is most of those women worked in the medical field. Like, they didn't have their own practices like Dr. Jackie and Dr. Simone and Dr. Heavenly. They didn't have practices. They worked for people. So they couldn't be on TV acting like Heavenly them act, because they work for a company, they work for corporations, right? And they can't do that. So yeah. So then we move over talking about Maurice, Kimmy, and Kiowa. Now, Maurice, when Carlos asked you that question about basically why don't, when people say that Kimmy's a side chick, why don't you defend it, right? Maurice, excuse me, I didn't mean to burp in your face. Maurice is like, well, that's kind of like, if people say I'm an alien, I don't necessarily have to defend that. Maurice, those two don't go together, right? But they kind of clear it up. And then, Carlos said to Marcel, so you said that Marcel had told you that Kimmy was a side chick at one point, right? He said, yeah, he did tell me that. And then, Marcel says, I never told him that. And that's how you know it's not true. So then Martel got a little bit defensive. And Kimmy chimed in. She was like, but Martel, when you and Melody were in that doctor's office, you guys mentioned it in that scene and it wasn't cool. And then you guys always talking about, oh, Kimmy's so touchy with him. Like, I don't like that. Like, you guys are my friends. Like, you guys are my tight circle. Like, I didn't like that, right? So then Carlos asked Tisha, had she ever heard that Kimmy was a side chick, right? Yeah, well, Kiowa had told me that she was a side chick, but I was like, that just doesn't sound like Kimmy's character. And Kimmy had to interject, and she was like, but Kiowa never once said that I was a side chick, right? She says Kiowa feels that she interfered with her marriage. She says when Kimmy came into the picture, right, that Maurice and Kiowa had already signed the divorce documents, right? And it was a 6-month period. So I didn't know this. So when you get a divorce, I guess there's a 6-month period where I think I have heard of it, right? There is a 6-month period where you sign the divorce papers, and if you guys decide to reconcile, then they just, I guess, toss the divorce. I don't know, right? But that's what it was. She felt like Kimmy came in the 6 months where it could have been time for her and Maurice to rekindle, right? But Maurice says by the time that Kimmy came into the picture, he had already filed for a divorce, right? Kiowa dodged it once, right? But then the second time, the sheriff went to her and served her with the divorce papers, right? He says he had moved out of the house and he never went back. Like, him and Kiowa, nothing ever happened between. They never tried to rekindle. They never tried to do anything, right? So then, Carlos asked him the question, well, did Kiowa do something in the marriage that you couldn't forgive? And he said yes, right? And then he also brought up a conversation between Patricia and, he said Kimmy, but Kimmy was like, she didn't have that conversation with me. That was her and Maurice, right? So the toothbrush comment, right? If somebody used your toothbrush, are you going to want to use it again? So I was like, okay. And that's when Carlos said, did something happen that he couldn't forgive? So it seems like they're implying that maybe Kiowa cheated on Maurice, allegedly. I don't know. That ain't, I'm not putting that out there. So let's move on, you guys. All right, you guys. So then we move over to Melody and Martel, right? So Martel has the audacity, the nerve, the unmitigated gall to say he's not a cheater, right? I'm like, do you know what the definition of a cheater is? Because you're a cheater, right? So he then says that the next woman he gets with, he won't cheat on. Okay, whatever, right? So then we find out a little bit more about, which we knew this, right? I mean, anybody with eyes, ears, and a brain would know this, right? So Martel was obviously cheating on Mel with Ari and Curry during the pandemic, which is really interesting because at the beginning of the pandemic, everyone was to shelter in place, right? But he was leaving the house and being gone for hours, and Carlos was like, where were you going? He said, the gym. Carlos was like, the gyms were closed. He says, well, my gym wasn't. We know The gem of Arian Curry's, her legs were wide open. We know that. So then Melody tells us, Martell had said something to her during that time period, right? So basically, she said that Martell told her that he wanted her to accept him cheating and that she needed to talk to the older women to get some advice from them. She says, well, Martell, you should talk to the older men. He said, I did. And she says, well, what did they say to you? She says, I can repeat this to you because I remember verbatim what he said. So he said that the old heads told him that don't mess with somebody who don't have anything to lose and make them sign a contract, right? I'm like, so all of that then inadvertently worked against you because Arian Curry, she will speak to anybody that has a platform. Like she will talk to anybody. So obviously you didn't get with somebody who hadn't, obviously you got with someone who had nothing to lose, right? And then if you had her sign a contract, it must have been the world's shittiest contract around because she has blabbed her mouth to any and everybody who would listen, right? So then we find out a little bit more about the situation. So, which we already knew, Martell had been cheating long before this show, right? So Melody says she found out about Arian in 2017. She said that somebody kept calling his phone blocked, and the first time she answered the phone and they hung up, right? So she said, okay, and then they called back again. She answered it, they hung up again, and then they called a third time, and that's when the Arian Curry got on the phone and said, I didn't call your phone. I called Martell's phone, put him on the phone. Melody, you better than I am, because I would have gone off on that girl. Oh, I would have cussed her she would still be getting cussed out to this day. Like the blatant disrespect. You calling my husband's phone, I answer it, you hang up. You call back, I answer, you hang up. And then the third time, you had the audacity to say, I wasn't calling you. I didn't call your phone. I called Martell's phone and put him on the phone. Absolutely not. Wouldn't have happened. Would not have been me. So then, Carlos talks about this whole thing about, Martell thinking that Marceau has a thing for Melody, right? So we get into that. And this story that they're telling, right? I'm like, this sounds like an innocent story, which I've heard this before from I've heard Miss Vanessa say this story before, right? So what happened was when she found out about Arian Curry, her and Martell got into a huge argument with one another, right? So then, after that, Miss Vanessa, she called Marceau, right? Telling Marceau, hey, they going at it right now. Like, can you step in? Can you help them? Can you do something, right? So then Martell says that Marceau called Melody. And Marceau says that's not true. He says what happened is Vanessa was working at Scold. So she called me because she knew that we all hung out with each other, right? She told me that they were arguing with each other. And this is after she found out about Arian Curry. So Marceau says that he called Martell's phone twice, right? But Martell didn't answer. So when he didn't get an answer from Martell, he called Melody. So then he called Melody, and Melody, rightfully so, was upset to find out that her husband was cheating on her, right? So she said that, and Melody, I'm gonna go on ahead because the way that the editing was, I'm gonna just talk about it now. So Melody said that, she called so when Marceau called her, she was upset and she was irate, right? So she said, I'm at such and such. I'm right here by the Chick-fil-A. So she pulled over to Chick-fil-A. Marceau met her at the Chick-fil-A, right? So then Martell's like, well, you said, let's go get a drink. And Tisha's like, so he said for her to go get a drink with him? And he said, yeah. And Mel says, no, that is not what happened, right? She says, like I said, we met up at the Chick-fil-A. Marceau was just basically trying to calm me down. And he said, you know what, how about this? Let's go to the bar, let's get a drink and calm you down, which that makes a lot of sense, right? Let's just go somewhere. Let's just go somewhere, have you decompress. I know you're going to still be pissed, but let's just calm you down, decompress. If you need a drink, if you need something just to take the edge off, let's do that. It was very, very innocent, right? But this is Martell we talking about, and you know how Martell is. Martell loves to deflect from his bullshit, right? So then we start talking about, we're continuing talking about Melody and Martell, right? So Martell is talking about the fact that Melody left because of fellatio. I was like, huh? Like, Martell loves to just throw shit out there and just see if it sticks, right? That's what Martell loves to do. He just likes to throw shit against the wall and see if it can stick. And Mel says that's not even true. Like, that's the reason you say you cheated is because Melody wasn't sucking your dick, right? That's why you say you cheated. So he says that, Melody told him that she performed fellatio on another man. So then we found out a little bit more, right? So after Melody found out about Arian and Martell, which we know this, that Melody moved into her own apartment, right? Now Melody says she met a guy, they were dating each other for about 4 weeks, right? So then Martell says, but you gave him fellatio. She says, Martell, no, I did not. He says, I have a recording of it, Melody. You told me you gave him fellatio. So she says, well, you know what? If that's what he want to say, play the recording, Martell. Play the recording. So then Carlos asks her, so did you give him fellatio? She says, let's be honest right here. So what happened is he gave me fellatio. Martell says, you didn't tell me that. I was like, oh my God. Why do you care now at this point, right? So Carlos said, so he performed oral sex on you? She says, yes. He says, so you didn't perform oral sex on him? She says, you know what? I don't remember. I was like, ooh, Mel, that's not a good sign that you're saying that you don't remember if you sucked the man's penis or not, right? I mean, if it was consensual, right? We don't typically forget, our sexual, what we do sexually, right, with other people. Unless it's consensual and you didn't kind of just tune it, black out, right? So I'm still not on Martell's side, right? Still not on his side because he's upset, but granted, yes, they were still married when she did this, right? But at the time, she said she had no intentions of ever getting back with Martell, so that's why she did what she did. And I'm not gonna sit here and be upset with Mel. I'm not gonna be like, oh my God, Mel, you're no better than Martell. Like, you went out there and had, oral sex with a man. I'm not gonna come down on her, right? Because these are the consequences of his actions, right? She found out that you were cheating on her. She moved out of the marital home. She had no intentions of coming back home with you. So you don't really have much of a say so. I mean, you don't have much of a leg in this fight, right? So then we talk about Arian Curry once again, right? Carlos was talking, right? And I will give Carlos one thing that he did say, right? There is obviously something that Martell is, because he said people think that Martell is a sex addict. I don't think he's a sex addict. I think what it is he's addicted to Arian Curry. I think he's addicted to her in a sense, right? I think that there is something about her that he is attracted to. Obviously, it's something he's attracted to. It's something that he's drawn to. That's my feelings, right? And then, Martell's like, people call her a side chick or coleslaw, whatever. But he thinks she's a whole damn restaurant. And I was like, Carlos, now that one I disagree with you about, right? Because if she's the whole damn restaurant, even after his divorce with Melody, he still is not with this woman. He still doesn't claim this woman, right? Like when Lewis them asked him in that episode, does he love her? He can never answer that question. So yes, I do think that I think he has feelings for the woman. I do think that. I think what it is Martell has some resentment about it. I think he has resentment. I think Martell is embarrassed, and I think Martell is ashamed of the woman. Let's just be real. Like, I don't even think that at this point that the kids know about their little brother. So it's a little bit of, I think, like I said, I think he resents what he did. He regrets it. He is ashamed. He's embarrassed. I think that's what that is. But you guys can let me know what you guys think. And that was actually the end of part 1 of the reunion. So he did ask him, does he love her? Like I say, I do believe Martell loves Arian. I do believe he loves the woman. I just think that there are so many other factors involved that Martell can't get past. But that's it, you guys. Let me know what you guys thought about the episode. Please leave your comments in the comment section below and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell button so that way you guys are notified of when I drop anything else. Share the video. And until the next one, you guys stay safe out there. Take care of yourselves. Remember to wash your hands, wear a mask, socially distance, be blessed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.